They've got to show to convict this guy of 2 of the 3 charges, coercion or force. And that means Diddy's got to say, you're doing it even though you tell me you don't want to, or something to that effect.
So Ventura is back on the witness stand today. Diddy's attorneys argue that this is really a case about love, infidelity, and money. Closely watching this case, of course, and just think about how awkward and still intimidating it must be for her to be in that courtroom with everything that she's gone through and endured. Can't lose sight of that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And another day today, then also cross-examination. She's going to have to get cross-examined by the defense team, so that's going to be tough as well. All right, Roxia, thank you.
Meantime,
all right, so that was just some of the coverage of Fox 11 in Los Angeles. We're just hopping around here for you, getting you the updates in real time to the best of our abilities with our court reporters that are inside of the courtroom right now. We are also learning right now that there is a second drive that prosecutor Emily Johnson is asking Cassie Ventura about. It holds contents from Ventura's devices, including enhanced video images. Ventura has initiated it to indicate that she has reviewed it. Okay, so that is some more updates that we are getting just moments ago. Cassie Ventura's testimony began with a thumb drive. Prosecutor Emily Johnson approached the witness stand to ask Ventura to identify it and ask if she's familiar with its contents. Ventura said she is. So again, we are worldwide here for you on Live Now from Fox. Cassie back on the stand as testimony resumed shortly after 10 a.m. Eastern at Combs' sex trafficking trial, with Cassie answering questions posed by prosecutor Emily Johnson for a second day. Cassie was in a relationship with Combs for about a decade. Johnson picked up where she left off just yesterday, asking Cassie about video images of Combs beating her at a Los Angeles hotel back in 2016. During her testimony on just yesterday, Cassie said eventually she was doing freak-offs weekly. They went on for a decade, with the final one in 2017 or 2018, she said. Each time, she said, she had to recuperate from lack of sleep, alcohol, drugs, and having sex with a stranger for days. She described the situation as freak-offs became a job where there was no space to do anything else but to recover and just try to feel normal again. During her opening statement, prosecutor Emily Johnson told the jury that Cassie was not the only woman Combs beat and sexually exploited. Combs was among the most influential hip-hop producers and executives of the past 3 decades, working with artists including Notorious B.I.G., Mary J. Blige, and Usher. He also created the fashion clothing line Sean John and produced the reality show Making the Band. Prosecutor Emily Johnson, who delivered an opening statement just yesterday, has softened her tone considerably in questioning the government's star witness, Cassie, about the 10 years that she spent with Combs. While she repeatedly referred to Combs as the defendant in her opening statement, Johnson often calls him Sean, as she delicately questions Cassie, who is in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy with her 3rd child. Prosecutor Emily Johnson says that she'll be questioning Cassie about her 10-year relationship with Combs for about half the day before defense lawyers begin their cross-examination. She finished yesterday by questioning Cassie as prosecutors once again displayed recorded footage of Combs' attack on Cassie at a bank of elevators in a Los Angeles hotel back in 2016. He kicked her and dragged her and later apologized after CNN first aired video of the attack last year. Here's a breakdown of the 12 New Yorkers plus a half dozen alternates who was part of the jury. The group tilts male and middle-aged or older. Only 3 jurors are under 40, 5 are over 60. Classical music listeners outnumber were people who identified as hip-hop fans. Their identities are known to the judge and lawyers but won't be made public. The jurors revealed a little about themselves as they were selected for the trial. Here's what we know about them. We have 8 men. One is an investment analyst, age 31. One is a social worker, age 39. A communications clerk at a prison system facility, 41 years old. A scientist, 51 years old. A retired worker in finance, 68 years old. A retired telecommunications company field technician is 68 years old. Logistics analyst for a bank, 67 years old, and a massage therapist and actor, 69 years old. There are 4 women on the jury, including a deli clerk who's 30 years old, a nursing home dietary aide, 42 years old, a physician assistant, 43 years old, and a former treatment coordinator at a charity for blind people at 74 years old. So that's a little breakdown of the jury right now. We are awaiting more key updates for you right here on the Live Now from Fox as we continue to bring you the latest. For day 3 of the Diddy trial underway, Cassie is back on the stand.
Still, more and more updates on day 2 of the Diddy trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend today, Cassie Ventura, taking the stand in this trial 1 day after jurors heard details about their violent, decade-long relationship. And we want to warn you, this testimony is graphic, and it was heard today there in court. And our colleague there, Fox News multimedia reporter, Kaylee Schuyler, she's been following it from New York, and she joins me. Kaylee, good to see you here. To your point, yes, it was extremely graphic testimony here. She was called up by the prosecution. Not entirely sure if you were inside the courtroom today, but what were some of the key highlights? What transpired?
Yeah, so really, so far, prosecutors have started to outline really the beginning of their relationship and how things started to unfold. But really, they even started before they ever met. Cassie said that she was a fan of Diddy's and that he seemed larger than life at the time. But then she went on to explain to jurors that eventually he controlled every aspect of her life. Cassie, who is now married with kids and another on the way, says she was 19 when she met Diddy and signed with his record label, turned sexual. Her to freak-offs, described by
Added benefit for Diddy, the moral support. In the meantime, though, we do want to bring into the conversation here former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Nima, good to see you here. I just want to show our viewers this because they didn't get to see this live, but question, what side do you come down on that question, Nima?
Video came out in May of last year. I mean, it was so powerful that Combs had to finally apologize publicly. And even the defense in this case, they're really tailoring their entire strategy around this video. They are admitting physical violence. They've said that Combs is essentially guilty of domestic violence. Now, maybe that's not conceding a whole lot because he's not charged with physical assault or domestic violence in this case, even though it can be a RICO predicate act. But they're trying to draw this distinction between physical force and sexual assault. And I'm not sure the jurors are going to buy it necessarily because they're saying that this was a mutually violent relationship. I'm sure they're going to really bounce on Cassie's own words today that she was insanely jealous. I expect to hear testimony that she too was violent and that this was essentially mutual combat. But, to the extent that we're talking about Cassie having a black eye, being dragged by the hair, bottles being thrown at her, I don't think that's anything that any human being can consent to.
We're watching TMZ video posted online of Cassie Ventura's partner and husband, Alex Fine, walking out of the courtroom there, as you can see. He was with his pregnant wife just today there in Lower Manhattan. In the meantime, though, Nima, I have to ask this. So the defense's argument goes as follows. Yeah, Diddy may be a jerk. He may be a sexual deviant. He may be into kinky sex. Those aren't crimes. What do you make of that? What would the jury make of that argument?
It's a good argument because really all they can argue is consent here. I mean, that's what separates sexual activity between consenting adults from sex trafficking. And they have to admit the physical force because it's caught on video. So when you're talking about consent, and this is something that we see in a lot of domestic violence and sexual assault cases, you have someone like Cassie Ventura that remained in the relationship for many, many years. When they broke up, she chose to leave on her own. So the argument is that, well, if you're really being raped, if you're really being sexually assaulted, why did you continue to go back? The prosecution tried to elicit some of that testimony on direct, and it's true that Cassie loved Diddy, and she would perform these sex acts, both because she loved him, but also because she feared him. And we're going to hear from an expert witness that's going to talk about the psychology of abuse. And I've tried many cases involving sexual assault and domestic violence, and jurors often tell me afterwards that they know of someone in a toxic relationship with an abusive partner, and they understand why maybe someone would choose to stay, even though they would not, or you and I would not. That is part of the cycle of abuse, so it's not surprising in this case.
So is another kind of arrow in the prosecution's quiver going to be the juxtaposition between Cassie's life then and Cassie's life now? Do you think they're going to make that distinction? And will it sway the jury, so to speak?
I think so, even if not explicitly, because her life now isn't necessarily relevant, but people are going to see that she's about to give birth and that she is in a loving relationship right now, and she has healed from this past trauma. And it really, when we're talking about what can someone consent to? Can they consent to, being forced to have sex with a male prostitute while, their husband covers them in baby oil and directs them what to do? Is that really within the boundaries of consent in a decent society? I think it's a very tough argument for the defense to make. It's the only argument they can make. Frankly, they have to accept some responsibility for all of this. But I think they're really trying to thread this needle, Andrew, and I'm not sure they're going to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many hypothetical questions. I mean, I know we're still very early on in this trial. Two of them are as follows. Will some type of plea deal be struck throughout the duration of this? Or will Diddy testify? Will he be called to testify? Will the defense put him up to testify? Those obviously remain to be seen. What other questions do you have? I know we're early on in this trial, Nima.
Those are two of the biggest
and the big splash that it caused, and then the rumors that started going around about a criminal investigation. There was even some kind of statement issued by the New York City Police Department that was then retracted, and it really just gave notion to the idea that this was going to be a lot bigger than a lawsuit, and I think that's what we've seen.
And so far today, again, as we're seeing Cassie, the two were in a relationship, Diddy and Cassie, for over a decade, between 2007 to 2018. And when we're diving into some of this testimony now, we do know that that infamous hotel video, the shocking video where we see Diddy on camera attacking Cassie in the hallway, hearing from her one of the first times, she says she was trying to flee one of those infamous freak-offs that has really been a central part of this case.
Yes, that was really the big testimony today. And prosecutors had set that up by talking about this in their opening statement, but then also introducing two witnesses who could talk about their interactions with Cassie, including a LAPD officer, Los Angeles police officer, who was actually working security at the hotel. So jurors saw this video yesterday during his testimony, and then they saw it again during Cassie's testimony, and she answered questions from the prosecutor about what was going on and what she was doing. And like you said, she confirmed that she was trying to escape one of these freak-offs.
And so when we're talking about these freak-offs, we also know it came out today in court that Cassie was often the one who contacted and paid some of these sex workers in the freak-offs. But one of the biggest keys that the prosecution is now planning their case around with this testimony is the coercion or forced nature of the sexual relationship between Diddy and Cassie and those others who participated in those freak-offs, the sex workers. Did we get that from Cassie's testimony on the stand today, or was that still left up to interpretation?
It's arguably left up to interpretation. She unequivocally testified that she did not want to do this stuff, and she felt pressured to do it. But of course, the defense is that that is buyer's remorse. Perhaps she's has a different perspective on things now than she did then. So they're really pushing the consent aspect of this. And the dancer who testified yesterday indicated that this was equal participation on their part, and that she's the one who actually gave him the money. But of course, her testimony is that this was forced. And that's where I think the video is just so crucial, because it's hard for anyone to look at that video and say, oh, this is consensual. I mean, he's clearly abusing her enough that his own lawyers had to admit in their opening statement that he is guilty of domestic
rise to the level of sex trafficking in particular as well. So when we're looking at the particulars on the legal side of things, how difficult is it for the prosecution to meet that burden of proof versus the defense saying, okay, Diddy's not on trial, like you said, for domestic violence, even though we've seen the nature of how he treated Cassie through that hotel video?
It's always just so much more difficult for prosecutors because the burden of One thing they're talking about that it's kind of a play by ear. You can plan out your cross examination only so much, but then there's some things that you want to improvise on depending on how things go.
And what else is intense about this case is that we know that Cassie's husband, Alex Fine, there's been a huge contacted conversation. You put this out on Twitter earlier today that Cassie's about to begin testifying in Diddy's trial, and his lawyers are saying that her husband, Alex Fine, can't be in the courtroom because they may call him as a witness. This statement alone caused so much uproar on social media. A lot of folks don't understand how the legal system works behind the scene. But we do know that Alex was in there for a portion of that conversation. But tomorrow, I believe once they get up to 2018 and things that happen afterwards, he has to leave. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's right. And a lot of the times, this is a common tactic, really, from prosecutors and the defense in a trial if they think there's a strategic advantage to not having someone in the courtroom. But I think Diddy's lawyers would say that this is an earnest attempt by them, that they really do feel like they might need to call him as a witness to be good advocates for Diddy, to ask him questions about what things that happened in 2018, things that he knows about the situation, things that went on, just to try to shore up their own defense.
And it's right that Alex used to actually work for Diddy. He was a part of his camp before he and Cassie began their relationship together. Obviously, the two are now married and expecting their third child.
Yes, he is a big part of this case, and like you said, he was allowed to stay in the courtroom today, but there is going to reach a point where he is going to be removed. But we're so far with him in the courtroom today.
All right, Megan, before I let you go, any final thoughts about things that came out in court today, or really what else we should be looking out for the rest of this week?
No, but I just think it's going to be a long trial, and I do think that there's so much information coming out, and there's so much interest in the case that I just hope people can be responsible in the way they're presenting information and not just be too gleeful about all these sensational details, because this is a really serious case of domestic violence and sexual violence, and there's a guy who's potentially facing life in prison. A man could lose his freedom over this.
And it has been, like you said, unfolding. And we're watching and waiting as those details continue to come out there from the New York courtroom. Again, legal affairs journalist Megan Cuniff here with me to help me break down the details of what came out in court today. I appreciate your time as always. Well,
And we are back for you here on Live Now from Fox, continuing to give you the updates in real time. We are learning now that prosecutors have showed an image of a man called Jules, who was the male escort present at the freak-off held in 2016 at the Los Angeles hotel that Cassie Ventura said she was trying to flee when Sean Combs beat her. They also showed a photo of Ventura taken after the incident. Her lip is swollen, and she is wearing sunglasses with her hoodie pulled over her head. She took the photo in an Uber as she left the hotel. She said she took the selfies on her Uber ride away from the Los Angeles hotel. She said she wore sunglasses because she had a black eye. Once home, she said a friend of hers saw her injuries and was super upset because she'd seen me with black eyes and busted lips before. Cassie said her friend called police, but she declined to reveal who had injured her once police arrived. So they left. In that moment, I didn't want to hurt him that way, Cassie testified. I wasn't ready. The court is also being shown a text exchange between Cassie Ventura and Sean Combs from the day of the 2016 incident at the hotel in Los Angeles. In the messages, Combs is pleading with Ventura. Call me, he texted. Then call. I went and checked everything and spoke to security. As long as you don't disturb the other guests, they'll leave you be. And checked everything and spoke to security. As long as you don't disturb the other guests, Ventura wrote to Combs in another message. Again, a big part of today is prosecution asking Cassie once again questions about the 2016 incident. Hotel footage has no audio, and points from her testimony just yesterday, asked whether she fought back when Sean Combs would physically attack her. Ventura said that she did earlier in their relationship. She said she learned that doing so would make it worse for herself, that it would escalate the violence. Combs sometimes acted surprised and shocked that she fought back, Ventura said. Other times, this would lead to off early, according to her testimony from yesterday. And just moments ago, prosecutors showed an image of a man called Jules, who was the male escort present at the freak-off held in 2016 at the Los Angeles hotel that Cassie Ventura said she was trying to flee when Sean Combs beat her back in 2016. And again, we are bringing you just some of the very latest updates, all right here on phone that she never hear my voice again, Cassie said. Jurors were then shown pictures of Cassie and Combs at a movie premiere soon after the March 2016 hotel attack. Cassie described bruises on her body that were visible in the photographs and said that she was unable to cover up all the damage with makeup. She wore dark sunglasses to cover up her black eye. To really detail the lengths of the alleged abuse from the and so far forth after that as well. But again, some of these images, of course, are very graphic for the jurors, so they are taking their time showcasing this, and then also Diddy, why didn't she just want to end it But later on in testimony from the government's witnesses, we will be hearing from a psychologist to talk about what it is like for domestic abuse, what it is like for the victims, and how they often try to cover for their attacker or their abuser. So we'll be hearing a little bit from that later on in this trial. But right now, again, prosecution continues with the star witness on the stand. And at this point, all the defense can do, what they've been doing yesterday, is taking notes on Cassie's testimony, waiting for some moments, of course, when this cross-examination will be happening. And then what they'll try to do is their very best and to try to put some holes into the testimony, into the memory of Cassie, and also describing the attacks that Diddy is alleged to do beyond what we just saw in this 2016, of course, hotel video. And again, we are waiting for more updates for you worldwide on Live Now from Fox, but this is all setting up to be a very, very emotional day on the stand once again for Cassie as she is reliving these moments back in 2016. And now we are seeing just how the prosecution is talking about days after what it was like for Cassie to be on the red carpet with Sean Combs just after that violent attack. No doubt they are trying to set this up and set her up for what the defense could say coming up here in this cross-examination. They'll say, they'll talk about the video of the attack and say, were you just so scared of Sean Combs and so frightened by him that you went on the red carpet with him to these different A-list type of events? And were you that scared? Because it seems like from these photos and these images that you weren't scared of him at all. So again, those are just some of the things that the defense could be bringing up. And again, we'll be again showcasing all of the latest updates here on Live Now from Fox as we get them. The great court reporters inside continue to give us the rundown and the vibe check of what it is like inside of that courtroom right now. And again, very emotional testimony that continues. We are seeing the government use the woman prosecutor to continue to talk and ask questions to Cassie. And right now, the defense for Diddy is just having to wait and take the notes to the best of their abilities on what they could possibly ask Cassie and try to bring those holes and try to just create some doubt of the different jurors, because at the end of the day, you just need one juror to have that doubt in them to say, you know what, we know that Diddy is an abuser. He's caught on video doing that. Even the defense saying that he is domestic violence, but the defense is going to be saying that just because he is that he is accused of domestic violence and is guilty of that, that does not mean he is a that covers up in prostitution and also is a sex trafficker as well. So those are just some of the big takeaways that we are going to be listening for, and really, again, waiting for that cross examination that could come sometime after lunch here, because they did say, the prosecution, that it would take about a half day. And again, we are providing you These updates all in real time now. And just earlier started quite a lot of back and forth was going on right now about how Cassie Ventura will be cross-examined and with what material. Prosecutor Maureen Comey has raised concerns that the defense has not turned over evidence it may intend to show the had a mutually abusive relationship. When asked by the judge what she wanted, Comey replied, "I want their exhibits, Your Honor, and I want them all right now." So that was before court even started there. So we will again see just what kind of defense is going to be for this cross-examination. All right, we're getting some more updates. Participated in the sex sessions. Now Ventura is being asked to do this again. The escorts are a racially diverse group of men, some of whom Ventura only remembered vaguely. She was unsure of some names. There were at least 6 men shown. Ventura said it was her job to hire these men, that it was expected of her by Sean Combs. Ventura said that she performed sex acts with all of the men shown, and that those who were money, he would hand it to her, and then she would hand it to the escorts there. So right now they are continuing to relive just some of those many freak-offs that happened with Cassie and these male escorts that were hired by her, because she says in these testimony that she felt pressured to do so. And